Hello. Sure, my volume's up.
I'm here. Hello and welcome, everyone. Thank you for joining me. This is Gabrielle Spencer, and I am joined today by the most beautiful, lovely, energetic Christine Parma, and she is calling in from Vietnam. So we're super excited that she is with us and taking the time to share with you her brilliant inspiration, knowledge, wisdom, and alchemy for moving you forward in your spiritually aligned business as well as in your life. As you know, this is my favorite topic because we both, I know, believe this from our hearts, that is how we are meant to live, and it is how we are meant to realize our greatest potential and opportunities. So with that, I invite you and am excited to welcome you, Christine. Thank you for being here.
Thank you so much. It truly is an honor and I think soul alignment that we found each other.
I love how the universe works, right?
Yes.
As you were just telling me before we got started, that is how you even said yes to this invitation was, yes. Go ahead and share. Tell people how you do it, because I love the how, because I feel like people, we may miss those steps and they wonder, well, how did they get where they are, right? So tell us how you decided and how you decide to do things in your daily life and in your business, etc.
Right. So since the Akashic Records kind of zoomed into my life about a little over probably a year and a half ago now, I thought my life was going this direction, and we kind of went, and went off in another direction a bit. With the Akashic Records, I use the Akashic Records as a very practical tool for guidance, for asking where am I stuck, what energy needs to shift, activating new opportunities coming in. And as we were talking before we started recording, I had been in my records asking about next steps and really bringing in more aligned opportunities for me to collaborate with and surround myself with a community of people who are all about being consciously aware and being conscious co-creators of their lives with the divine. And then your email showed up in my inbox 2 days later. And I looked at it and I said, well, thank you very much. I'm glad there was such fast manifestation on that request that I had in the records. So, the Akashic Records is an extraordinarily practical tool for bettering your life right now, as well as getting a lot of energy downloaded into your physical, mental, emotional, etheric bodies.
Absolutely. I mean, this is the key, is for people to be able to connect with other ways of getting information. And how is it that people can do it for themselves and know the difference between this is what my mind says or this is what my emotions are saying, and fixating too on what they want or they think they want, and therefore perhaps blocking. I know that you do a lot of work with people about how they're actually creating new blocks and limitations. And so if you'll go into that some, I think that'll help people to understand the modality that you're talking about, being able to connect and, what to do with that, because I think it can be confusing.
Yeah. And I think, I guess first, my background, I have, you would say, a lot of tools in my tool belt. So one of the first modalities I ever got certified in and learned was neurolinguistic programming, which is really all about how you create your reality, but focusing mainly on languaging and habits, patterns, belief systems, that sort of thing. Turns out the people I learned from kind of, I think, swung very much to the woo side. as I learned much later, the NLP I learned is kind of different from most people. But when you look at, even the energetic modalities like the Akashic Records. I think any effective modality should help you get more aligned with the truth, your own truth, the truth of who you are, be able to get clearer on what you really desire, and have it not be mucked up so much by other people's expectations, fears of what other people might think of you, your own limiting beliefs that it's just inevitable. We get through childhood, through adulthood, we carry from past life experiences, which we can get into that a bit too, because the Akashic Records is quite useful for clearing up that. And you can also get into tools like transpersonal regression and hypnosis, which I'm also familiar with. So I think all of these, when you're looking at, the essential question is, how do you know your truth, right? And get clarity on what that is for you, and be connected to higher guidance, whether you want to call it your Akashic Records or your record keepers, your intuition, your higher self, your oversoul, all that is, however you call it, it's basically that field of infinite wisdom and energy that is far greater than us and holds far greater wisdom and knowledge and perspective. Right. So when somebody, really wants to get more in touch with that, the Akashic Records I found have been extremely useful. And anybody, everybody has Akashic Records, right? They're the essentially the library of your soul, all that's ever happened in your past lives, your current life. And you can access that information. You actually, and this may be, some people may say, why are you telling people this? You don't need people like me per se to access your records. You don't need, need people because it's yours, right? But, my role, I'm essentially a facilitator, especially when people are less confident and feel too kind of mucked up by the doubt or the fears, or in the situation, you need an outside perspective.
This is so true. And I know that for myself, I do have outside people that I know and trust, that when it is something that I know, and I think that's too about having clarity about yourself, knowing that you may be too emotionally involved to actually get a clear answer or direction as to which way to go and how to do it. And that is so important for people. There's no omnipotence for people. Like, nobody knows exactly all the potential futures and all the potential ways something can go. And so having somebody who is good at it, I don't mean guessing.
Yeah. Who's confident. Because it really comes down to confidence a lot of times.
Well, and experience.
Yes, absolutely, an experience, and confidence comes with experience.
I remember when I was 30, so a long time ago, I was getting a reading, and I had asked this person, how do you get the information? Mm-hmm. And she was like, well, sometimes it's a picture, sometimes it's just an understanding, and sometimes it looks like a movie. And I'm thinking, oh my God. So tell us, for you, how is it? Because I know for myself, it's similar. You don't ever know what you're going to get. So how do people know that it's really a divine message? It's very interesting. I don't think that I've ever talked about this, nor have I ever seen it talked about. So I'm excited to know why this is coming up for, like, the question to you. Share with us now what it is, how to get that confidence that what you're getting is real. Yeah. And how to interpret it, perhaps.
Yeah. And I've had people ask me the same thing. And so, I look at, when I was going through my year-long training and certification for, this method of learning how to access and read other people's Akashic Records as well as my own, it's, there is the lack of confidence and there's the doubt at the beginning. Mm-hmm. Right. And what I noticed for myself and what's evolved over time is I actually have physical tells. It's kind of like in poker where somebody has the twitch, or something like that. And that's when they're bluffing. I have physical tells. So I will get, certain, my fingers will twitch on one particular hand. I have physical sensation through my body when I'm connected. And especially when the information it's almost like the record keepers are saying, yes, listen to this. This is so important. It's almost like an energetic push of really pay attention to this. And when we're in process, because that's something that I do inside the Akashic Records most of the time. It's not me steering it. It's if I'm reading for somebody, it's your Akashic Records. But I feel like they know the tools I have in my tool belt. So why wouldn't we go in, and shift energy, work on, rooting up belief systems, clearing past life vows, all these things that can get in the way. And so as far as how the information comes for me, it's a combination. It's like you were saying, pictures, words, sometimes just knowing. For me, I feel like at times it's almost like channeling. Sometimes when it's just the flow is so clear that the information just comes through.
Absolutely.
And so then if there's, if I get instruction from the record keepers to do a process, I do my very, very best that I can to get all of my preconceived notions and ideas of what it should look like out of the way. And essentially they give me the process. And I tell people, I'm going to give it to you like I get it. And so it comes through. And then of course, I'm always, I'm checking in with the person that I'm doing the reading for, because I want to see how they're responding to the information they're receiving, the energetic shifting that's going on, the process, if it's a vision, some kind of guided visual process, whatever's going on. Some people can get really emotional, and for others, it can be almost like more matter of fact. Although I would say the emotional aspect is there more often than not, which is fantastic because we're clearing things. And when energy is embedded in our emotional bodies, and it manifests, into different belief patterns and physical symptoms and ways of being, that all of that starts to get shifted throughout all of the different bodies that we have. And it results in an emotional release a lot of times.
And freedom.
My gosh.
Freedom is so amazing that it's probably the most rewarding part of the work, is helping people to not just gain the knowledge, but the freedom from the emotion that is bottled up in there. Yeah. Because I know, and I see that you do too, that it is really, those are what limit us. So you specifically apply it to, business, life, wealth, and abundance. And this is so important. So how is it that we stop ourselves? What do you see most common? Or is there a thread that you see commonly that's different than what people get hung up on? I mean, I agree with you. One of my favorites about money doesn't grow on trees is I looked up the statistics for 2016, 2017 orange grove harvesting in the United States. And I said, absolutely, money does grow on trees. That is worth $3 billion in sales. Okay, so it's just one of my favorites because I'm the mental, like yourself. It's like it has to be practical application, right? And so having that understanding, while that's all great, that's not actually the root of the issue. So if you want to take it from there and see what inspires you to speak about it.
Yeah. So, when I think, and maybe the viewers, might have some understanding of this already, is, given the audience that follows you in your community. I think the tie between energetic and spiritual modalities and the physical 3D world, and how things, how the energetic shifting, the spiritual work, the inner work really results in different possibilities, different outcomes in the 3D world, is really important to understand. Because, when you're working at the spiritual realms or with energy, you're not just shifting your vibration, or clearing out emotional blockages, or things that have gotten in the way even throughout past lifetimes, but you're actually changing the way your mind can think. And that's, we're in the human body here, we're souls in the human body. And when you change the way that somebody can be and think in any situation, when they're showing up in their life or how they're thinking about their business, then what that does is it opens up possibility, and it opens up your ability to become aware of opportunities that are all around you all the time. But because of that thing called the reticular activating system, and we have, certain beliefs and things influencing us that are getting in the way, you don't notice them, or you say, oh, I could never do that. Or, gosh, I don't know that person. I just got an email from her in the inbox. I don't know, and you don't have that confidence to move forward. So really it's, the freedom is so important, that aspect, and the freedom brings the possibilities in. So when you go back and you look at, what really gets in the way, there are those, all those common ones that people hear about. Rich people are bad, money grows on trees, but some really surprising ones that have come up in my sessions with other people and just in my own work have been things, and this is, I'll just make this a personal share. This is one that blurted out of my own mouth that I literally gasped. And I tried to stuff it back in, because I was like, this couldn't possibly have come out of my mouth. But it came out in one of the rare times that my husband and I have actually argued, kind of heatedly. And we were talking about money and that sort of thing. And he was telling me, you don't need to do all this stuff you're doing, because he saw how hard, and this is kind of a couple of years ago, how hard I was working. I was burning the candle at both ends. And I blurted out, yes, I do, because if I don't earn money, then I'm not a worthwhile human being.
Nice.
And I was just shocked. I heard it as soon as it came out of my mouth, but I was like, who said that? Because I don't believe that consciously. But as well as I know, if it came out of my mouth, there's something in there, some part of me that was still resonating with that and believed that. So equating money with the right to life, the right to live, that's one that most people don't talk about. And it's that deep. And it goes, even down to survival. If you have the right to even be incarnated into human form, this can tie into your, past lives where maybe you had more spiritual abilities and you were, persecuted for it, or it was really hard to earn money. And so you feel like, well, I took this spiritual path and it was so difficult and so hard. It's not safe. It's a threat to my survival. I shouldn't be alive in this body, and have these gifts. And if I'm not earning money for it, then maybe it's not something that's really valuable or valued by other people. And if I can't produce something that's valued by other people, then what's the point of my life? My life is meaningless. I mean, you can kind of really, this can be spun out in a lot of different directions for people, and then you get into things like vows, and people think of vows often like, either past life or present life. Like, I vow to, do this. Usually it doesn't sound like that. or look like that when you think it or you say it. It's more like, I'll never be like that person.
Correct.
And that person is
still a vow.
somebody who has money, right?
Right.
I'll never do that. I'll
Yes.
never compromise my values for money, which on the surface is totally admirable.
Sure.
But how can that play out in a very destructive way? You know, there's just all these things that come up that aren't that obvious for people. And a lot of times this will come out, you know, in the Akashic Records or other spiritual work.
Yes, I call it the multi-layered effect.
Mm-hmm.
Because when we have these thoughts, it's usually what drives that oath or vow or declaration or covenant, whatever it is that we're doing in the moment. The trauma of the emotion creates just a whole nother subset of yuck. And so when people say, but I thought I already dealt with that. It's like one of my favorite things to hear when people say this.
I thought I had too.
Yeah, right. At that level, you did. But guess what? It got buried with a whole new experience somewhere that you weren't able to clear when you were working on this level up here. Because the multi-layered effect, I always like to think of it like the mountains. You know, the mountains, when the mountains are created, it's from land pushing together and pushing up. And so you have layers that overlap and bury one another, and some that are higher than others that they didn't start there. You know, it's because of that, the tectonic plates and all those things that are going on. And the same thing happens with emotional debris. Think of it the same, right? We just smash it together. And so some things get stuck with other things, and underneath things that may not have in a timeline reference makes sense. And so that's why Akashic Records and soul work is so important, because there is no time or space in infinity.
Yeah.
And so I find, so caught up in time. And this is a big limitation, I think, for people.
Yeah.
That, we want to understand it in a time way.
Absolutely. And this is where, you know, people think past lives are past.
Right.
But there is no time space, right? So this is one of the ones that really was really surprising to me as far as another root cause is, so when, say, you take a past life for reference, right, and you have a trauma that's completely unrelated to, say, money. Money is the problem you're having right now, but it's seemingly unrelated to money. So say in a past life, you died in childbirth, you know, and as you're dying, you say to your existing children, I'll never leave you. Right? So what can happen there is the personality, we're going to call it a soul fragment, right, says, I'm never going to leave you. So that piece stays in that lifetime. Yes. That's a part of your energy that's now been split off. How that can affect you now is when you experience in this current lifetime a trauma, an emotional upheaval that is of similar frequency, that piece of the personality, yours or somebody else's, we can, could really go down the rabbit hole with this, but we'll stick with a kind of a simple example, goes, aha, there you are, Christine, zonk, and essentially reactivates in your life, in this current lifetime. So you have this influence that has, all of its stuff and the I will never leave you energy and anything else that about glomming onto you, essentially. And so you can be affected by pieces of you that weren't, that have kind of reactivated, or other energies that aren't yours. And in the Akashic Records, that comes up, because one of the things I'm asking is this her, is this hers or someone else's energy? what am I seeing here? Am I seeing a dark energy outside of you, attached to you, influencing you? Are the record keepers saying that? You definitely want to clear that stuff, because here's the thing. We can go around beating ourselves up. I can never seem to stick with something. I'm always procrastinating. I just can't get clarity. I try and try. And you're like, and you've done the inner work and you're like, it's not better. I can't figure out what's going on. It might not, you might be being influenced by something that's outside of yourself. You're beating yourself up for kind of like a problem that isn't really yours.
Right.
And it's like, if you don't know, you can't really clear it out of the way. And most of the, mindset work, belief change work, it doesn't address this kind of thing at all.
Oh my goodness, so true.
Yeah.
So true. We're beating the same drum, Christine.
Yeah.
Because this piece, I want you to address consciousness, if you would, because this piece goes with that. The consciousness to understand. Somewhere in my many years of spiritual journeying, I have been told, if you don't have the consciousness to ask the question, then you aren't given the information.
Yep.
And that is one reason to work with somebody who has experience, because you have the questions. And many of the questions you've used for other people in order to dig out information, because it doesn't matter if the question or the questing, let's say, right, comes from you or the person you're assisting. It's that it's being asked. And this is a really important part to that consciousness piece, and going beyond what I call the symptoms, which is all the things that you're describing are the symptoms of what we're experiencing in our current life. So how do we dig them out? Because I believe where we are now in the timeline, in the ascension timeline, that we're being pushed past the idea that it's just about beliefs and that there's way more going on, correct? So
Yes.
If you would address what you're getting from that, because what I love is that we don't talk to each other often, right? But what I love is how the universe works and how we are all coming out with similar information at the same time. I mean, it's almost like that 100th monkey effect, right? It just,
Yes.
We're all saying it. And this is where we are now. So I'd love your take on the evolution of consciousness and where we are now with it and what that means, excuse me, for the audience.
Yeah. So it's, you have to wonder, if you're consciously aware at all, like, how are so many people being called to dig into themselves, do the inner work, go from, I used to be a certified financial planner working for Merrill Lynch.
No wonder I love you. Because I used to be a financial analyst and a mortgage banker. So.
Oh my God. Yeah. So it's like, how do people like us end up doing things like this? Right.
Yes.
It's right. Because our souls we're feeling that pull. And for whatever reason, we have, and you have your story, I have mine, other people have their stories. We said yes to a change, to an opportunity. And every day, but especially, those critical moments when it's like at the beginning, when it's super scary, when I was like miserable and I was like, I've got to quit my job, but I don't know what the heck I'm going to do next. I'll have no income, all this, but I was so miserable. I mean, I think the universe just piled the misery and the crap on the pile to make me so miserable. I would finally be like, I quit, because it was literally a month and a half later that like the dream job that I didn't even know what it was called landed in my lap. But if I hadn't quit the job, I wouldn't have been at the event at which this opportunity came up.
Right.
So it's those, those critical shifts as you go along that when you're feeling the yes and your face is right up in the fear, like, this is what happened when the Akashic Records zoomed into my life. I got a full body yes. Yes, yes, yes. And I'm like, what the heck is this? Like, I'm a business coach. What is this about? And I was like, all right, I'll play. This will be for me. Gonna see what's here. That. Yeah. And I'm like, I'll never do this for anybody else. It'll just be for me.
Sure.
Little did I know, how I would be guided to do that, and now it's Reiki, has been added in, that energy. And I look at it, as we're going along with the evolution of consciousness, those people who are willing to say yes and be on board a little bit are getting the strong nudges again and again and again. And you may be pulled in a direction. You're like, this makes no sense. And really, when it doesn't make sense, that's when you almost know it's right. Because your mind is going, no, this makes no sense. I don't, this left turn, this right turn, whatever. Not going to do it. But you keep feeling that tug, that pull, to be able to bring yourself. And this is where the clearing, the inner work, the dealing with your beliefs and the mindset, where it's so useful to allow you to get out of your own way. So you can be comfortable enough, just enough and confident enough to say, I'm going to do this thing that I'm feeling called to do, whether it's, go after a speaking opportunity or start your own business or go from being a financial analyst into a spiritual, a realm of teaching and helping people, whatever it is for you, that you can be comfortable enough to say yes to that and just keep going and connecting enough with guidance to be able to move into what's my record keepers, because I have my eyesight isn't perfect, so I call it the blur, right? The lack of clarity, to be able to move past the fear enough to move into what isn't clear for you. You don't know how it's going to work out. You don't know how it's going to look, but it's you're being pulled in that. And then over time, you learn to trust that even more. We were talking about, how do you know? It's the trust and the confidence. And I've had enough experience in my own life that I know when I say yes, when it's a yes, and I move forward with that, amazing things just that I never could have imagined for myself happen.
Yes.
And that's the magic, right? That's the magic of being in the flow, in really co-creating with the universe from your highest, most soul-aligned self.
For myself, I say, wow, that worked out better than I could have ever planned it.
Oh my gosh, because our plans can only be as much as our mind can conceive of, right?
That's the biggest limitation, is we only know what we know.
Yes.
And the universe has a vast, way more vast, the Akashic Records, your soul has way more vast information than what this aspect of ourselves knows. And it's people fear letting that go and trusting and having the confidence to just go, you know what, I'm just going to do this. And I am sure that you have many stories of situations where you have, besides just even leaving your job, which is a huge, huge step of courage. Recently, I was given the understanding of courage that's different than the actual definition of courage, of course. But it is being willing to live and allow your heart to lead. So you live through your heart and allow your heart to lead. And so that's the trickiest switch, is from the brain, the mind leading, and allowing that heart place to lead you forward. But it is the most rewarding. It's like,
and because I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, that's what we all convey. Like we're it's like the cheerleading squad. I always see everything in marathons. I don't know why, but I always think of it like we're running a marathon, right? And here we are. We're at the end going, come on, you can do it. And it's like that last, that 26-mile marathon, right? Boy, those last couple miles probably the biggest kick in the butt. But you have to start the race. So
yeah, and just to give your audience some perspective about what can happen. When I was contemplating quitting that job, one of the hugest reasons, besides not knowing what the next step was, is that I was in debt at the time. I had been in a really bad place in my life. I'd made some bad decisions after I lost somebody. And I was like, well, I'll just make my situation worse. I mean, quitting my job was absolutely logically the worst thing to do.
Right.
And I went from within it was a little more than a year. I went from over $60,000 in debt and being miserable in my job to landing a job working for T. Harv Eker, for which I was in no way like on paper qualified. Right. But that's I'm keeping the story short. But I was at the event where he announced the job, knew it was the one for me, pursued it, because there is the practical action standpoint, right?
Oh, please, yes, right. Address that.
Yes. It's not like you can't just be floating on the magic carpet all the time. It's like you float on the magic carpet doing your meditation and everything. Yes, get the guidance and freaking act on it, It's like,
thank you.
Right. It's like, you got the job opportunity, woman. Now go get it,
That's
so
right.
The practical action part of it. So I went from $60,000 in debt to earning over $100,000 a year, which was almost double what I had been earning, getting to do work like which I got to interview Marianne Williamson, Brian Tracy, work with Mark Victor Hansen. I mean, like, mind-blowing. Never, ever could have imagined that for myself, and having the best dang time of my life. Right. But had I not, emptied the proverbial cup, not saying quitting your job is necessarily the right thing to do for you if you're in that space. This is about getting the hints that your intuition, the universe, your guides, they're all giving you, and following it, sticking with it. And when you feel that yes, whether it's yes to work with somebody, yes, I need to work on this issue, yes, I need to quit my job, yes, I need to go after this opportunity, you act on it. And you do the inner work that you need to do to get out of your own dang way. And keep going, right? Because it's always going to be, the layers of the onion, new level, new devil, however you want to say it, stuff coming up. There's always that. And if you can see life, and this is one of the best things that my record keepers ever told me, is they're like, this isn't your one shot. It's like, don't put so much stress on yourself. You can have fun and play, because you get to come back and do it again if you want to. You'll just be operating at a different level. So don't be in such a rush to work yourself to the bone or stay in a job that you don't like. This isn't a one-shot deal. You have infinity, infinite time essentially to work on this, as long as your soul wants to do it. And this is really what it's about. It's about soul growth, right?
Yes, it
then
is.
When you're in the physical life here, it's about how do you want to express your soul and yourself here in this life, and to bring your life and your actions into alignment with that, so you can be joyful and happy and prosperous and having fun. That's what it's about for me anyway.
I think that all of this is so key. The steps are not complicated. The hardest part is getting out of your own way, as you say. Yeah. The hardest part is just getting in tune to actually, past the need. I need this, I need that, because that's just emotional baggage too. It's, yes, we all have needs, but to actually get the nudge, I can say for myself, the nudge was something I definitely didn't want to do. So I think it's like one of the key things here is it's not going to be like, oh my God, I get to quit my job and go and be I used to live near the beach, and you know, it was like, oh my God, I'm going to quit my job and just be like a beach bum and just hang out at the beach, right?
And you could do that, right?
I mean, I could, but that was never the nudge.
Yeah. Yeah.
That was my, oh yeah, let's just go do that.
Yeah.
It was the nudge for myself, and even as you describe your story, I would imagine it's probably similar. It's, why would I go do that? All my training is in finance, banking, money, you know, and I've got, you know, I'm known countrywide for what I do, and, you know, I make a lot of money doing it. Now, why would I go do energetic healing work? That makes, you know, there's no sense there, right? So for people, you know, that's one way when you can be connected to really determine for yourself. I feel one of the ways is if it's something you absolutely are like, there's no way, I'm not doing it, that doesn't even make sense, whatever, you know, that might take then some work to release whatever it is that's keeping you in that place of no, and that doesn't make sense, and et cetera, et cetera. You know, don't just jump, but do the work, because that will make the transition that much easier, right? Because it's not about hard anymore, I think. It's about embracing all the modalities, all the energy that's available, and the amazing healers and people who can tap into this higher vibrational knowledge. If a person can't do that, they're not at that place. That's why there are so many awakened people now.
Thank goodness.
I know. It's like, we're the journeymen. We're here to help you take that journey from, you know, spot A to B and get you on your way. It's not about needing us forever, but a lot of times the journey goes a lot faster when you have a guide, right? Like, like when you first go to a new country, right? It's awfully helpful. I know for myself, I like to hire a tourist guide, you know, to bring me around so I can find what's what and where things are and how things work, because it's different, right? So having a guide is super important. So I know that you have a really beautiful free gift. So would you please tell us about it?
Yeah. So this is one of the practical things that have come out of my work with the Akashic Records. I got the nudge to create it, and I was like, really? Okay, if you're going to ask me to do that, you're going to have to help me create it, right? So I opened up my records and basically, you know, I wrote it all out, the meditation, the activation, with the energy of the Akashic Records, with essentially downloading it from the Akashic Records. And so this divine wealth and abundance activation, it's way more than a visualization. It's not affirmations. It is an activation of your soul wealth, your soul level wealth, while also helping you to clear out the mental, the emotional things that get in the way of you aligning with that. So it's a little bit less than 30 minutes. It's very doable for you to listen to every day. And gosh, there's so much energy that will flow and release and clearing that comes with this activation process. And I love hearing from people how it looks different for each one as you're going, you know, each person as you're going through this process, because it is It is structured to be your own. It is structured to activate your divine wealth and abundance as you listen to it.
Energy has no limitation. And that's the most beautiful thing, that even if it sounds like something, oh, I've already done that. The amazing part about exposing yourself to new people, new healers, new guides, is that everybody carries a piece of the overall higher, what I like to call it the mosaic, right? We're all carrying a piece of the mosaic, and our journey is to bring it together and to begin creating that harmonic as we come together. And so each piece that a person provides, like this work that you are offering, it holds a key for people. And you don't know what it is until you go ahead and listen and do it and allow it sometimes more than once. I say this so often, is that it's important to allow the layers to work themselves through. And it doesn't mean it's going to happen the first time. Some people may move a lot the first time and then feel like, oh, well, I don't need it anymore. But actually, just showing up and saying yes allows what the guides and the record keepers that you're working with to assist that person in their now moment. And that's the important thing about all of this beautiful work, is that it's really about showing up, saying yes, and being willing, and getting out of your own way, as you have mentioned throughout our show here, is that it's all in here. And we're going to help you pull it out. Get moving. Because this divine action that you talk about, that to me, at this point in where we are, is like a piece I feel really missing from people's overall plan. Because I still like to plan. I just allow the universe to do whatever it's going to do, right? So we still choose to do things and to plan. We're not always waiting for just something to show up, but rather we are moving the energy and then allowing the universe to move the energy. And so it's a dance. Would you agree?
Absolutely. I mean, it's like, if you're going to co-create, that's implying there are at least two parts, right? there is the part that the universe has to do. And then, but it's like, they're feeding you the opportunities. You've got to notice them, be able to become aware of them, which that's where the reticular activating system, your beliefs and mindset, and expanding your awareness is so important, as well as resonating with it at an energetic level. But you've got to then go, there's an opportunity. I'm moving forward. And if you're like, I'm not sure how to move forward with this opportunity, then you ask, right? You ask for guidance. So this opportunity came up. What do I do with it? What's next? I'm not sure how to proceed, or I'm having fears around it. Clear that, right? So that you can keep moving forward, because that's what creation is. It's ever expanding in the direction of more life, more joy, more abundance.
I was going to ask you for a closing statement, but you nailed it. So
Okay.
that is everything that absolutely so important. And so the link for her free gift will be below the video. So be sure to go and get it, because it feels really complete. And that's really important for people to understand. Move. Everything Christine is telling you is, you won't know what your blocks are, the real root of them, unless you keep moving, because there will be other things that come, but they get easier to move through as you go through the process, right? And there are wonderful people like Christine who are here to help you to do that in a really practical, spiritual, meaningful way. And it all goes together. You can't just have the spiritual piece and just have the practical piece. They can't be separate. And that everything Christine is offered here is about the merging and the convergence of that practical and spiritual, which I am wholeheartedly love that part where we can logically talk about it, but understanding that there's so much more going on. And that's what we were sharing with everybody. So thank you so much from my heart to yours for being here and sharing your knowledge and wisdom and your beautiful energy. Thank you, everyone in our audience, for being here. I appreciate you as well, because with you, our lights shine brighter. Have a wonderful day, everyone. Namaste.
Thank you.
So if you would share with us your life purpose and what that means and what people ask you about, because it's a big question for people.
Yeah. So I was really surprised when I first started doing the work in the Akashic Records, this life purpose question, which I shouldn't have been, right? Because I had been asking it, on myself in the past years. And one of the things that my record keepers told me that I found so immensely freeing and comforting is that, most people think I'm here to do one thing. Like, it's my soul's purpose. I'm meant to be the animal rescuer or the, corporate CEO or, whatever it is. And they want to know that one thing. And what came through for me and what's come through in sessions with other people is it's not that specific. And this may, kind of rub a few people the wrong way, but it is so freeing if you think about it, because it's more like your life has a theme, almost like a theme. And as you're going through life, you get to express it in a lot of different ways. So instead of, if you've been one of these people like me where you've done a lot of different things and you've kind of like, in the past beat yourself up, or maybe you are beating yourself up, you're like, why can't I ever stick to one thing? I'm always changing direction. I'm always changing my mind. It's not because you can't stick to one thing necessarily. I mean, it's probably because you're being guided to have all of these different expressions and experiences that are part of like the theme of your life purpose. So you have all of these different reference points and perspectives as you move forward in your life, like as you move forward to help people. Like we had talked about, you're a financial analyst, I'm a certified financial planner. I could look back and be like, what the heck did I ever mess around with doing that? Or the traumas that we go through in our life. But if you don't have those reference points, like if you haven't walked in those shoes, then you really can't as effectively, in my opinion, help somebody who's in those shoes right now, wanting healing, wanting a change. So instead of thinking of your life purpose as something so limited, so specific, that it's got to be this one job that you do for the rest of your life, you think of it more in a theme. Like the theme for me, essentially, that came up in my conversations with my record keepers is that I'm here to be a way shower to possibility for people, a bridge between the spiritual world and the practical. Now that could sound too general to a lot of people for my life purpose. They're like, well, what the heck does that mean? What does that mean I'm supposed to do? The freedom part comes in that you get to choose what feels most aligned for you to do to express that purpose. And you get to more freely follow your joy because it's in alignment with that larger purpose. So there's so many ways that you could be a person who opens up possibility for other people. And that's like one of the best things that anybody could do. And that's your work is that way too. People who help clear emotional traumas, who work with, children, who are abused, who are helping people in third world countries to start their own businesses or have stable housing or send their kids to school. You are a person who is opening up possibility to have freedom and joy and more purpose and meaning and happiness in their life. And it's like, what could be what could be better than that of bettering the human condition for yourself and for others?
Life purpose evolves with you.
Yeah. Life
And as your
purpose
frequency
always evolving.
evolves,
Yeah.
yes, exactly. And it is so freeing and fun. I mean, I have the most fun, and I know that you do too, because things come up and you go, oh my God, I want to do that. And then it just all comes together. And this is the part where people go, wow, that's so awesome that you're doing that. And you're like, yeah, but it's just because you're going and you're doing, and you're not attached to the idea that you have a life purpose and that it looks like this and that's
Right.
all it is. And
Yeah.
that's the expression of consciousness, is that the consciousness you have is that it's always so much more out here.
Mm-hmm.
And that by tapping into universal consciousness, that is when you get to have the opportunities and potentials of what the universe can arrange for you. And it's a way better highway. I always hear the song Life is a Highway in my head.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's like, it is a highway, but it can be a really cool highway, or it can be one of those yucky highways like that go, through areas that are, one lane, and, we get in the swamp, like in Florida. There are places you don't really want to be traveling that highway. And if you're stuck in that highway that isn't exactly a smooth sail, 75 miles an hour, and you're just living life fully, then for you, each person, go ahead and get the free gift that Christine offered. And the link is below, because it's about that expression.
Yeah.
Life purpose is the expression of your soul.
Yeah. And so instead of asking yourself, what is my life purpose? With expectation, it's got to be defined very narrowly. A better way to phrase that is, how is my soul wishing to express itself right now? What is the highest and most soul-aligned way for me to show up in the world right now? And then get guidance around that, because essentially those are your next steps to fulfilling your overall life purpose. And then whatever it looks like is just the current expression of that.
Amen. Amen. Thank you so much for those words of wisdom. Super important. And we hope that everyone felt that in your heart. Close your eyes when you listen. It helps you to process the information by bypassing your mind.
Yes.
All right, everyone. Thank you again, Christine, for being here. It has been a love and a joy. Have a wonderful day. Everyone.
Bye.